Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Good evening. How you doing? It's Fade to Black. Today is Monday, July 21st, 2025. Let's do this, man. Yeah. What an amazing week on Fade to Black we have coming up. Tonight, Michael Cremo is with us, Forbidden Archeology. Tomorrow night, Sir Blake Sinclair. We're going to be talking about his family, the Sinclairs, and UFOs. Wednesday night, Reverend Bill Bean is with us. He's a warrior exorcist. We're going to be talking about that and UFOs. Thursday night, Paul Ramash is with us. Police and the paranormal. Oh, yeah. What an amazing week. Now, next week, I head out of town for the PSI Games, which is August 1st through the 3rd, 2025 in Charlottesville, Virginia. I would normally say get your tickets, but today I can't because it's sold out. That's right, it's sold out. But if you got your tickets, I will see you there next week in Charlottesville, Virginia for the Psychic Olympics. Ah, yeah. All right, let's get straight to it. Tonight, Michael Cremo is back with us, and he returns to explore extreme human antiquity and its connection to forbidden archaeology. Now, we're going to be talking about the evidence of ancient modern humans, which is largely unknown, of course, except for everything that Michael has done with us and our community and the world. I'm going to say this without any prejudice. His book, Forbidden Archeology, rocked not only our community, but rocked the world. It changed things. It's now in 26 languages. It challenged everything that we knew about our human origins. Now, we're going to be talking about all of that tonight, and we're going to get into his favorite examples, the evidence of forbidden archaeology, and of course, extreme human antiquity. And we're going to do all of that and much more. I do want to say this with some transparency. Michael changed my life as he touched so many others that were not only researching, but had open minds and were free thinking about this subject. But I have followed him for a very long time, and we have talked about that a lot over the years. But today, my journey has brought me to Michael, and for the last 10, 12 years, we call each other friends. And tonight is a very, very special night to have Michael Cremo with us. It's just a pleasure and an honor, and I want to welcome back to Fade to Black the one and only Michael Cremo. Michael, look. Just let me say this, young man. You know I'm a fanboy. I can't help it. But just seeing you and having another conversation, it just means so much to me personally. And I want to say thank you on behalf of the community and the world for all of your contributions to humanity. And don't stop. All right. Now I got all the gushing stuff out of the way. I'm done gushing. Can we just talk now?
Sure.
Yeah. Michael
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, exactly. See, but here's the thing, Michael. I'm here to learn. You're here to teach. And I will do everything I can. And I've done this with you for so long now, but I'm going to do everything I can to extract some of that stuff out of your head. You have probably forgotten more than you remember. You've done that much research, but I'm here to extract tonight. All right. Will you help me out? Will you help your friend Jimmy out so I can get my learn on?
Yeah, but it's kind of like you say, Jimmy. I'm starting to realize that some people actually have been influenced in a positive way by my work somehow or other. You know, last week I was at a consciousness conference in Barcelona, Spain, and I gave a talk on consciousness there. And it's not my archaeology topic, although it is related. But there was one scientist there. He came up to me afterwards. He's like a cognitive science, a neuroscientist, a neurobiologist, but he's saying to me, I really liked reading your book, Forbidden Archeology, when I was young, going to college. So it really had a big influence on me. So I'm starting to realize that people in different fields have, as you say, been influenced somehow or other.
How does that, I don't know if you call it legacy or however, I don't want ego to come into this at all, or maybe a little bit of ego, but how does that play out with you? There's got to be a certain amount of satisfaction, knowing that it doesn't have to be an archaeologist that's influenced. It could be just about anybody, right? And that's got to, that's got to make you feel pretty good.
Well, I'm kept in my place by a lot of situations that come up. I think there are different levels of notoriety or fame or whatever. I'm kind of low on the scale, if you consider.
No, young man. Let me tell you something. All right, there's a room full of people. We're all there, researchers, things. It's a speakers, cocktail party, whatever, and we're all doing our thing, and you walk in the room. Let me tell you something. We stand at attention, it's like Cremo's here. Okay, man, we've all got to be smart. That's how we talk about you behind your back. You need to understand that. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you shouldn't know that. I don't know. I don't know. We've all just got so much respect for you. Serena Wright Taylor called me a little bit ago, and we all love Serena. She goes, Jimmy, I just wanted to call and say you've got Michael Cremo on tonight. I can't wait. That's the reality of it, Michael. That's the reality of it. You change things now, but okay, let's stay on that subject though, because you said something very interesting. It hasn't always been easy, has it? You write a book like this that tips over everything, and people that want to oppose this are going to rise up and talk smack, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I spent 8 years doing the research and writing for that book, Forbidden Archaeology, and I'm glad I put that much time into it. But I decided I was going to speak to all the different audiences that I think are part of a whole renegotiation of our whole picture of reality, who we are, where we came from, what is our place in the universe. I think the world is undergoing, as I said, a fundamental renegotiation of our whole understanding of those things. And there are a lot of different audiences that I think are participating in that process, one of them being the mainstream scientists. Now, I kind of knew there was an alternative science community, so I reached out to that as well. But I also understood there were other audiences. There was the general public, there were people into varieties of spiritual worldviews. There were people involved in conspiracy theories and UFOs and things like that. I was really surprised when, Forbidden Archaeology came out. I started getting invitations to speak at UFO conferences. And I kind of wondered, well, what's the connection here? And it was obvious to me that the connection was knowledge filtration. Like, just as I had demonstrated that in archaeology, there's a process of knowledge filtration whereby evidence for extreme human antiquity is kind of eliminated from the current discourse. It's kind of filtered out. Same thing goes on in ufology and alien abduction reports and things like that. The evidence is kind of ignored, dismissed on very flimsy grounds, uh, suppressed in different ways. So I think that was the common thread that explained why somebody dealing with stones and bones was suddenly being invited to speak at UFO congresses.
Well, doesn't that show you that everything that you write about, not everything, but what you write about is the connection of everything, the connectedness of everything. And that surely is a demonstration of that, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember once I was speaking at a university in South Africa, and the students were on vacation. So my audience was the professors of the university from the different science departments, chemistry, physics, biology, other departments. And, I talked about this process of knowledge filtration that goes on in archaeology. And I found that afterwards, a professor from a different department would come up to me, maybe from the chemistry department. He'd kind of look around, make sure nobody was listening to him. He'd say, Mr. Cremo, this process of knowledge filtration that you're talking about, it's going on in my field. It's happening just as you explained it. And then he'd kind of go away. And then another one would kind of sidle up to me and, Mr. Cremo, this process of knowledge filtration that's going on in my field, physics. So it is kind of a widespread phenomenon in culture, science, education that
I don't want to I don't want to interrupt your thought, but I just did. So I guess I must
go
continue,
ahead.
Michael. Yeah. Um, I I like traveling, and I so much enjoy going to different sites around the world. I like the smell of old rocks, by the way. There's something about that. Anyway, when you walk into or up to an ancient site that you can see predates the dogma. All right, I'll just say an open-ended term like that. You stand around and have these thoughts about how and why, and in a linear time scale, how old is this? And it is a wonderful process to go through in your mind to witness this stuff and then just go back and think about it, because your book allows me to just make that almost limitless on a time scale. When we talk about extreme human antiquity, what kind of time scale are we talking about? I mean, there's limits to the age of the earth, but how far back are we talking here?
Well, I mean, this depends upon your basic assumptions about the cosmos. And I'm I've been led to the understanding that our cosmos is cyclical. There's not just one universe, there are many universes, and they're constantly being generated and then collapsing into themselves again. They're expanding and contracting in the course of cyclical time. And it's like you were saying that you were contemplating time and it started to seem endless. And I think that's the same conclusion I came to, is that these cycles of universes coming into existence and becoming unmanifest again has been going on endlessly. And the human form of life in which it's possible to understand these things has always been going on in one form or another. So it kind of takes you beyond antiquity in the sense that there's not new times and old times, there's just endless time. And I think this human form of life in which we can understand and appreciate and have discussions like this and consider such questions has always been available to conscious selves. So,
What you do you have any concept about how profound that is? I mean, that is a deep, deep, deep thought experiment. And okay, let me just say this, and I'm not saying this in jest. You and I, a few months ago, did a panel together. I was hosting it, and you were sitting right next to me. And let me tell you something. Everybody else, they're talking. There's some our friends are up there, some big names, but you can hear the audience sometimes murmuring and talking to themselves and somebody else to speak. Every time you had something to say, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody just kind of leaned forward so they could soak up every word, just like I did right now with what you just said. The cycles of time and the infinite unfolding and expansion and contraction of universe goes back. Infinite is, and forever is a long time, isn't it? It's been going on forever. And that's a long time. And the human mind has had a chance to regrow, right? And restart and accumulate this knowledge over and over again. And here we are today contemplating these deep thoughts. That's profound. It's profound.
yeah, it's where the evidence led me. Forbidden Archaeology was about stones and bones. What it showed was that the current theories of human origins need some revision or replacement. And then the question becomes, well, what are you going to replace it with? And that led me to ask the question, before we even talk about where did human beings come from, shouldn't we first of all decide what a human being is? Many scientists today will just say we're machines made of molecules in competition with each other for survival, and that's the whole story. But I think there's more to it, and it leads right straight to the biggest unsolved problem in science, the origin of consciousness. Nobody can figure that out at the present moment. I was just at a big international conference on consciousness studies, and some of the prominent scientists there, cognitive scientists, neuroscientists, were saying, we have no idea at the present moment where consciousness came from. We can talk about electrical signals from the brain and explain all kinds of things in that way, but the actual living experience that we all have, the ability to taste an apple, to feel heat or feel cold,
Love, sadness, happiness, all those things. Yeah.
There's no explanation for it at the current time. And
Well,
I
what do
would
they talk
say,
about at a consciousness conference then? What's really funny about that is, yes, we can talk about this, but they can only take the conversation so far, right? Then all of a sudden, fruit, you hit a wall because nobody knows yet its origins, how to measure it, how to quantify it, how to study the science behind it. It doesn't exist because you can't measure, you can't create an algorithm. Therefore, science really isn't interested in consciousness. The philosophical side, that's all strong, that's all right there, but even then you can only take the conversation so far, can you?
well, yeah, the situation now is that there are different groups of scientists pursuing different theories of consciousness, how it came about. Some say it's due to quantum mechanical fluctuations within microtubules in the brain. And others are saying, no, it's the result of electronic fields generated by the brain. And others have different ideas, that matter might be on some level conscious, but there's no general agreement among scientists. They're all pursuing their different. One of them said something interesting. He said theories about consciousness are kind of like toothbrushes. Everyone's got one, but no one will use anybody else's.
Oh, that's
And
heavy, that's heavy. I'm going to steal that.
that I stole it, so you can steal it too.
Yeah, well played.
No, that
Well,
was
okay, well, can we stay right here for a second before we move on? um I am of the opinion, well, even then, my opinion can change on this, but that consciousness exists first outside of the physical. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Science is trying to prove that it's physical, it's chemical, it's that, like you said, right? It's some quantum electromechanical reaction at some micro level, but I think it exists outside of the body first. And if that is the case, just like the revolving universe, consciousness has always been here. And it must be very, very smart by now. So consciousness has been forever. Am I far off in thinking like that? And if that's the case, in extreme human antiquity, they possess the same consciousness that we do today, right?
absolutely. Well, if you're wrong, then I'm wrong too, because I accept basically the same idea that consciousness preceded the physical, consciousness preceded matter, what we call matter. So, yeah, we're in agreement on that. If one of us is wrong, we're both wrong on that point.
If, going back to extreme human antiquity, okay, just on Earth, because consciousness plays such a huge part of this. Um, Earth being habitable, if we go with the dogma, 2 billion years, right? 2 billion years. Before that, it was too hot and magma and volcanoes and molten everything. But so let's say 2 billion years. When we talk about extreme human antiquity, how many cycles of humanity have we gone through? Are we talking about, I know you've written and thrown numbers around of 400 million years. Does it go back further than that?
Uh, well, the oldest evidence that I found was some metallic spheres that come from South Africa, which are, they're made of a mineral called hematite, and they have parallel grooves that go around the equators of these round objects. And yeah, they're from mineral deposits over 2 billion years old. So that's what I would expect to find on this planet, according to my understanding of the time cycles, which I've gotten some inspiration from my studies of the Vedic cosmology of ancient India. It mentions cycles of time. The main one being the day of Brahma, or the Kalpa, which lasts 4.32 billion years. And according to the Vedic cosmological calendar, we're about halfway through it. So that means the last manifestation of our cosmos was about, our Earth, anyways, was about 2 billion years ago. So it sort of fits in. And then there are periodic devastations. According to the Vedic text, they occur about every 300 million years. There have been 6 of them before our time. The last one being the one that wiped out the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago. So that kind of lines up with modern paleontology, which posits 6 major extinction events over the past couple of billion years. So there are some parallels there.
Would you call that coincidence?
Well, some people would say that, well, it is just a coincidence that these ancient writings speak of multi-universes contracting and expanding over the course of vast periods of time that kind of correspond to what modern science is discovering. Somebody could say, well, that's a coincidence. It doesn't seem very likely to me. They may point out that, well, yes, it may be true that there are dozens of physical constants, ratios of natural forces in the cosmos that are set to very precise values, which, if they were even slightly different by a fraction of a thousandth of a degree, we wouldn't have stable atoms, we wouldn't have stars, we wouldn't have the conditions that make our cosmos fit for life.
What does that? I can't let you get away with saying that without asking. That sounds divine to me. That sounds spiritual. If gravity was off by a millionth of a decimal, 6 decimal points out, right? 7, one number, one digit, none of this happens. And that sounds divine to me. That sounds like consciousness. Some intelligence got involved to make sure that everything lined up.
To avoid that conclusion, what they say is,
right.
Well, there have been millions and millions and unlimited numbers of universes that have been produced. So we just happen to have won the lottery. Like, you may not be the person, that won now the lotteries are getting into billions of dollars. People can become billionaires. So they just say it's like that.
Well, you know what? Cover your ears, Michael. Cover your ears. I call bullshit. That's a bunch of BS. How can a physicist, a scientist, a biologist, a chemist say that or even think that with a straight face?
Yeah, I like what you said about BS. Kind of reminds me, once I was at the biggest university in Brazil, I had been invited to speak there by one of the professors, and I was talking about these ideas, extreme human antiquity, and how it contradicts the normal Darwinian theory of evolution. And in the audience was an evolutionary biologist, a professor at the university who had brought his students, and he was going to show them how to deal with someone like me. So now this talk was being given through a translator. There was a student there, nice lady, young lady, and she was translating everything I said. And then at the end, there was a question session. So that guy was the first one with his hand up. And he said, well, what you said about human antiquity is very interesting. But what about other species? What about dogs, for example? Do you have any examples of dogs existing earlier than they should have? And it turned out that I did. When I give a presentation, I always keep in reserve some slides of evidence that I anticipate may come into play. So I showed him some discoveries that paleontologists had made in China. The normal idea is that during the time of the dinosaurs, the only mammals were about the size of a mouse. But the paleontologists in China had discovered a big animal, a carnivore, like a huge dog or a wolf, that had in its stomach the bones of baby dinosaurs. So I showed him that slide and said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do have things showing that carnivorous animals like dogs existed earlier than we thought possible. And he just started yelling at me in English and in Portuguese. It's bullshit. Everything you're saying is totally bullshit. So I told the translator, very nice girl, very kind of calm and peaceful. She was a little bit shocked. I said, listen to me. I want you to repeat what I say to him in Portuguese. Don't listen to him, just listen to me. And I said, the word bullshit is coming out of your mouth so many times. I think your head must be full of it.
Michael Cremo put the gloves on. Wow. But does it come to that sometimes where you got to go, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm just here presenting my evidence. Do with it what you will, but don't call it bullshit, because it's not, and nobody knows.
Yeah. Well, I heard afterwards that there was a psychologist, from the university in the audience who had gone up to the guy and said, by behaving like you're doing, you're not helping yourself. You're giving him the upper hand. And I was also told that students in the audience were kind of taking my side of the question, and they went out into the parking lot with him and just kept arguing with him. So,
well, one step at a time. Did you ever hear back from him or any of the students? Did he? I'm not saying that you would have wanted to change him as a person. Of course not. But did he start to maybe just have an open mind and just consider everything?
I don't know that he did, but I have noticed that some of my critics, in their reviews that they write about my books, will acknowledge positive aspects of it. Like somebody had written a review of Forbidden Archeology in a science journal and had said, Normally, we don't review books like this, but this is something we've never seen before. Because the usual type of opposition they get isn't very, I don't know what the word to use is, but it isn't very sophisticated, we might say. This book he wrote is not like the ordinary anti-evolution book that we get. This book is well written, it's well documented, it's got things in it that we have to consider. So I do get responses like that, from people who are by nature not supporters of what I do. They would probably rather that I don't even exist.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the easy way out. Everybody wants the easy way out, Michael. But Darwin, I'm in no way interested in talking about Darwin, but he is one of the easiest. I'm not a PhD. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not any of that. I'm not a buyout man. I'm a guitar player from the Sunset Strip. You live in Hollywood. You live here in Southern California, right? Okay, that's my roots. Okay, that's my roots. My roots is the Roxy. So if I can poke holes in Darwin, anybody can. And the easiest thing to do is just look at us as modern humans. That's that. You can't argue your way out of that. And that's, I just leave it there. Darwin, to me, it's not. That's low hanging fruit, if you know what I mean. No pun intended.
It's kind of interesting. A few weeks ago, I was in Australia for a meeting of the World Archaeological Congress, and the meeting was held in Darwin, Australia, at the Charles Darwin University.
Wow. How'd that go for you?
Well, sometimes people used to joke with me, after I do a lecture, which would have an anti-evolutionary or anti-Darwinian theme. And they'd say, Michael, maybe you're a reincarnation of Charles Darwin. And that's why you have to go around the world, giving all these lectures, kind of correct your mistake. And I kind of laughed at it. But as time has gone by, I'm starting to think, well, maybe there's something to it.
He didn't come back. Yeah, he didn't come back as a Chihuahua. He came back as you. That is hilarious. That is, okay. So the version of us that's here right now, if we go back to like the ideas of Forbidden Archeology and of course Extreme Human Antiquity, was that a version of you and I right now? Was it just modern humans 1.0 back then?
Well, yeah, it's kind of interesting. In traditional Vedic thought in India, everyone has what they call a gotra, which means their line of ancestors. And in traditional Vedic society, everyone would be able to trace their ancestor back to an original progenitor, human-like progenitor who existed at the beginning of the creation cycle in a particular universe. So many cultures had ideas like that. But I think Darwin had some good insights, but he was just missing some pieces of the puzzle. Now, we notice that our human forms are temporary. They last a certain amount of time. Like we were talking about our psychological and physical ages a little earlier before the show, you and I. like, I mean, we may feel like teenagers, but the bodily equipment's getting a little influenced by time. But in any case, the self, not the body is just a vehicle. When the bodily vehicle breaks down, the self continues into another reincarnation. And the type of body that you have in your next life is determined by your mental state at the end of the current life. So Darwin was right that there's something that's continually changing that helps adjust our body to the environment in which it's in. Now, he had no concept of the mental body. He just thought it's the gross physical body changing itself. But that they've never been able to figure out exactly how that happens. There's actually no real scientific explanation for it. But there is something.
Okay, continue.
It's the mind that's changing lifetime after lifetime, and it's that mental body that contains our entire heritage. That's why people can have memories of past lives or feelings of deja vu, things of that sort. So, anyways, it kind of takes us a long way from the stones and bones of forbidden archaeology and extreme human antiquity, but that's where it all leads.
The idea of this kind of time scale, is this something that the planet can handle? I mean, I don't know if they can handle the existence of Atlantis or something like that and barely coming to grips with UFOs, but to have ancient high-tech versions of us existing infinitely backwards, can we handle that?
And forwards as well.
Yeah, and forwards as well. Can we handle that?
Well, whether we can handle it or not, it may be the truth. But you're correct though, in the sense that if we can't handle it, then how do we explain our presence here? Basically, it will come down to saying we're accidental creatures who exist in an accidental universe which has no purpose other than what we make it. And we make it with a vision of ourselves as machines made of molecules, basically robot vehicles that are just in competition with each other for survival. And with that kind of mentality, we get the sort of world that we find ourselves in, where there's violence on all levels of human society. There's immense destruction and waste of natural resources. So if we can't handle the idea that the cosmos has a purpose, and that purpose is best fulfilled in the human form of life, which has always been available for conscious selves, well, then we get the type of civilization, the type of world that we are presently experiencing.
Why does science take such an extreme stance to the evidence? Right? So much has been found, and you can go back to the layers of sediment. You can go back in age. You can do that and go back in time where some of this stuff has been found, but the real study of that is never done. I'll give you an example. I'm just gonna. I like this guy a lot, Michio Kaku. I do. I like him. But I wanted to talk to him when we were together for about 8 hours. So it was a long conversation about a lot of things. But one of the parts of the conversation, I wanted to ask him about Pumapunku and the possibility of it being 15,000 years old, right? 15,000 years, right? And he goes, wait, Jimmy, let me stop you right there. Right? And I was like, what? He goes, no, that's before the end of the last ice age. There's nothing to talk about. That was it. Don't want to hear about it. And that's 15,000 years ago. And it's just like, I'm not going to have this conversation. And you know what else he said to me, Michael? Now, I like him. I like him a lot. I've got all of his books, and he's been on this show. But he goes, Jimmy, you can't age rocks. That's it. Okay. I just don't want to have this conversation. And you know, what was I going to do with somebody like that, right? A theoretical physicist. I can't really compete with that. But that is the general mindset of science, isn't it?
Much of science, but they in the world of science, a few centuries ago, they made some fundamental decisions. Because if you go back maybe 500 years ago in Europe and look at the world of science as it existed at that time, they were studying alchemy, they were studying astrology, they were investigating the existence of vital forces and energies within the human organism. They were investigating mystic powers of various kinds. And they made a decision like to focus on ordinary matter in ways that could be described by mathematical laws. And so we got to start distancing ourselves from some of these other things that were part of what was going on. And that was very effective because they were able, by focusing on ordinary matter and not the various subtle energies and things like that, they were able to develop a great deal of control and understanding of it. So with that, they were able to make technological things. They were able to make weapons, for example, that governments liked very much and militaries liked very much and were willing to give huge amounts of money to them for. They were able to develop pharmaceuticals that again proved a source of money. They were able to develop consumer objects that people liked. And so we all kind of became complicit in it. So it was very successful for them in terms of getting the support of society, huge amounts of money to play with. And, and then it kind of became the job of scientists, like you were pointing out, one who resisted even the slightest change in his understanding of the origins of civilization, to go back even 15,000 years, say from 6,000 or 7,000 years. So they understood that a lot is at stake. So they guard each little aspect of it. So I think that's ultimately why there's resistance to some of these things, like seeing consciousness as something separate from matter, for example, because it opens up a whole whole new way of looking at things that's quite different from what they have now. And there's a lot of institutions, governmental institutions, educational institutions, scientific institutions, financial institutions that are built on the present general consensus that matter is primary in the universe.
I think it was around 1880. The year was 1880 when, I'm going to paraphrase the quote, a physicist back then said, "There is nothing left to learn. We know everything." Right? Okay. Now, here we are in 2025. And if we have learned anything by now, it is that we know nothing. Right? That everything is changing so rapidly with everything that we are finding out, which is negating what we just learned. And it's like everything that we thought we knew has just turned out to be completely wrong. And we have to continue with science and explore and seek answers. It's never been more loudly thought about than it is right now today.
Well, at this consciousness conference that I went to, there are many researchers who are concerned about the next development in neuroscience, which is the ability to monitor and control thoughts of people. Because it's kind of interesting what happened. The last big revolution, we could say, in the world of science was the generation of computers, making them widely available, getting people on the web, and then monetizing their social lives. I mean, it used to be that people, they would go to work 40 hours a week, and during that time, they subjected themselves to, exploitment, that they could be, their work could be exploited and used by the corporation or government agency that employed them. But then after the weekend, they had their social lives, which belonged to them. They weren't being exploited in that way. But then with the growth of the internet, these companies figured out how to monetize the social lives of people, their dealings with their friends, family, colleagues, associates. Now, the next thing that's going to happen, and actually is happening, is that they're going to go from your social life to your inner life. Because now, like a lot of products are being developed that monitor your health, physical and mental. So those devices are attached to the web, which means that whoever's controlling them is able to get tremendous amount of data, including what's going on in your head. There are companies that are able to read brain signals and tell you what you're thinking about or what you're envisioning. So these companies, they're developing technologies that not only monitor what's going on in the brain, but can influence what's going on in the brain. So
That's a real commodity. That's a real commodity. That's a real asset. That is a tangible, real, sellable piece of stuff.
It's
Like,
already being sold.
no, it's the number one. That's it. That makes more money probably than oil.
Yeah.
Selling of your data.
Yeah, but not just your social interactions now. It's going to be what's going on in your head.
Does that scare you that corporations know you better than your family? Right? Probably know you better than you. They know what day you are going to go and shop for pineapple juice. Right? They've got all those predictions. They know. Oh. That's does that scare you? It scares the crap out of me. I like to think it's free will. That I'm getting in my car to go and buy Haagen-Dazs butter pecan ice cream, right? That's a free will thing, and I've just been inspired to go and do it. And then on my way to the store, I get a coupon for it on my phone because some predictive algorithm knew that today was the day for Haagen-Dazs. And that's when they know you better than you, right?
Yeah. And now there are technologies that can turn microwave radiation into sound vibrations in your head so that you'll hear voices. Like we all talk to ourselves inside, as we're thinking or going through the day. Say, oh, I'm going to go out and get the Hagen days right now.
Right.
And they may be able to put a signal in your brain that sounds like you, your inner self, your inner voice saying, well,
Do it.
I'm going to go
Yeah,
twice
do
a
it.
week. I'm going to go twice a week. I'm going to go today, which isn't the normal day. I'm going to go today and get some Hagen
Here's an
days.
idea. Yeah. Here's an idea, Jimmy. Get in your car and buy pizza rolls. Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
Or vote for somebody or do this or that.
Right. And you go to your doctor and go, man, there's a voice in my head, and the doctor's like, well, yeah, that's the world we live in today. You're not imagining it. And and to those that might think it's some deep psychosis, or they think that it is real, they need somebody to convince them that it's not. Either way, to find out that it is real, that would cause insanity. That's like a schizophrenic world. That's that 1984, right? That's exactly what we were warned about.
Yeah, and I think it's probably at a stage where it's still possible to perhaps do something, get some regulation of what's going on in those industries.
Now, back to Michio Kaku for a second. He said, you're going to trip on this, Michael. He said on this show, he said that DARPA, I believe it was DARPA, that DARPA has already developed a human brain computer interface that can upload and download your dreams. He said that on this show 10 years ago. All right, this is 2025. That was probably 2015, 2014. So that was 10 years ago. He said this, and it was very matter of fact how he stated it.
Yeah. I was hearing recently about a similar technology by which they can read the dreams, by analyzing the brain signals that are coming out, combining it with artificial intelligence, they can figure out what you're dreaming about. And the implication was that they could also not only monitor, but influence it as well.
Do you think that AI will become sentient and have consciousness, a soul? Do you think it will evolve to that point?
I don't think so, but I think what I think is actually happening is that these developments in technology are imitating or approaching what our actual situation is in this cosmos. Because I think we are in a kind of virtual reality system where we are ourselves making use of artificial intelligence. In other words, we identify falsely with a conception of ourselves that is not reflective of what our true identity is. So, in that sense, we're already in 1984, but on a more cosmic scale.
I was on the phone. If you ever questioned any of this, I was on the phone this weekend with a friend. All right. And in the conversation, now talk about the most obscure thing to mention, but we were talking about Q-tips. Q-tips. And I said, I like the wooden Q-tips. I ordered those instead of the Johnson & Johnson Q-tips. I ordered those. And I love them because they don't bend and they're long, right? Okay. And they're tightly wound. That's what I said. Okay. That afternoon, Michael, as I live and breathe, I sit down on my couch. I turn on the TV to watch the NASCAR qualifications from Dover, which was rained out. And as I'm watching that notification on TV about it rained out, I get a notification on my cell phone, right? It goes bing, and I look, and it's from Amazon. We have a deal for you. You want to take a look? And I clicked on it. It was for wooden Q-tips. I was like, what? No, stop with that. I mean, it was like the craziest thing. And it was like 30 minutes later. They wasted no time. That algorithm is good. They are listening. Wooden Q-tips. I can't think of anything stranger to dog biscuits. I don't know. Trash bags, wooden Q-tips.
Listening on your phone.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And today, people don't care. We're almost used to it.
Yeah.
Right? This is when the man wins. I didn't protest. I didn't write Amazon. I didn't write my local Congress person. I didn't get upset. I didn't go protest in the streets. You know what I did? I was like, oh, wow, okay. They're listening. Oh, well, what are you going to do? And that's where they want us. That is 1984, right? That's where they want us. Just complacent. Okay, I guess I'll order those wooden Q-tips. Oh, yeah,
Well,
I'll buy more.
I remember those from COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's right. But that's where they want us. Complacent, consuming, money spending. I don't know about you, Michael. I don't need or want anything. Do I need anything? I need food, but do I need I don't need anything. I don't need a thing. I don't need anything. I don't need socks. I don't need underwear. I don't need clothes. I don't need a car. I don't need a house. I don't need furniture. I don't need there's nothing that I need. Nothing. I don't want anything. I don't want another house. I don't want another car. I don't want another T-shirt. Do I need another guitar? I don't need another guitar. Right. You with me on it? There's nothing I need or want. I am the worst consumer for them. So you know how they come at me? Wooden Q-tips. They're listening to your conversations. And they just want in any way to get you to spend a little more. Yeah. 1984, man. Let's take our break right here. Michael, you stay right there. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Michael Cremo, Forbidden Archeology all night long. More with Michael when we come back after this short break. Stay with us.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black T-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 T-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black T-shirt today. Go Beckley Teppy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut.
Jimmy Church, Gaia TV, Fade to Black, here at Machu Picchu with Brian Forster and Hidden Inca Tours. Amazing tour so far, Brian, but we're here to announce what we're going to do next year in 2026. What's going on?
Okay, November 2026, we're going to have our major tour of Peru and Bolivia, either a pre or post tour of Paracas and Nazca on the coast. And then after that, 6 days in Easter Island.
Bucket list, Easter Island. Come join Brian and I and his amazing team here at Hidden Inca Tours for Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island. Signing out. Say goodbye, Brian.
Bye, gang.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Michael Cremo was with us. Of course, the author of Forbidden Archeology and many other books. His website, mcasp.com. M. Cremo. I was going to say MC Remo. That's his rapper name. That's his DJ name. mcremo.com. The links for that are below on our website and throughout social media. Michael, one of the thoughts that we all have is, and it kind of goes back to the Fermi paradox, oddly enough. What caused our demise in antiquity? Did we kill ourselves? Did technology just reach a point and then, and I know you thought about this a lot and theorized. What's your disease, cosmic events, alien invasions? You know, what caused our extinction so many times in the past?
It's apparently the nature of material existence that things exist temporarily. I think it's part of an arrangement that whoever made this system thought about, that allowed people free will and allowed them a choice. So basically, the ruling principle of the original home of the conscious self, which I call the level of pure consciousness, the ruling principle is loving, harmonious cooperation among all beings of pure consciousness and their source. So, as long as one is not qualified to exist on that level, one requires another level where one can act in terms of selfish interest, trying to dominate, control, and exploit for one's own benefit the resources of material nature. So this material cosmos is like, I would say, an artificial world, a simulated reality or virtual reality for conscious selves. Because on that level of pure consciousness, there's no room for selfish activity. And there is no, it's not possible to use one's body of pure consciousness for a selfish purpose. So therefore, we have to be given another type of vehicle to identify with, a vehicle made of matter. So as long as we are in that position of identifying with a temporary material body in a temporary material world where things are constantly being manifest and then unmanifest, built up, torn down. That's true of every material thing, whether it's a body or a planet or a galaxy. It's going to come into existence at some point in time. It's going to go out of existence at a certain point of time. And then the cycle repeats. So the choice that we're all presented with is to get more and more deeply entangled in the world of matter and identifying oneself as a material being, or when one can try to understand, I'm a being of pure consciousness, you're a being of pure consciousness, we're all beings of pure consciousness. We should satisfy our material needs in the most simple, natural, and efficient way possible while developing our consciousness to the state where we become qualified to transcend this level of existence and enter into the realm of pure consciousness, where we identify with our real selves, not our false selves, where we exist without the threat of destruction. In other words, there's no destructive influence of time. So,
what if we don't want the cycle to repeat?
well, it won't repeat on the level of pure consciousness. There are no cycles of creation and destruction, manifestation and unmanifestation that go on that higher level of reality, which is where we really belong.
No, I understand that. I totally get that. And I feel, okay, let me just say this, Michael, out of the greatest respect, I can say this. I feel like you and I are sitting on top of the mountain with our legs crossed, facing each other, and I'm asking you questions and I need the wisdom back, and you're giving me that wisdom right now. But okay, so that's where we're at right now. I'm grasshopper, right? You're the teacher, okay? And I'm trying to take the pebbles from your hand. I'm David Carradine. So, but what if like this cycle that we are in right now, I kind of like where I'm at personally, and we can make some adjustments and fix so many things that are wrong with this world. I don't want this version of us to go away. For my children, my grandchildren, and everything, the world is a very beautiful place. What if I don't want to tap out? What if we don't want to tap out? What if we want this to continue?
It can continue. I mean, there are different positions within this material world because we're basically co-creators of it. And we each have our karma, which is the sum total of our desires and our interactions with others for many, many lifetimes. Some souls, by their karma, they have very good positions, which can manifest in terms of birth in a nice family, opportunities, opulences such as wealth, intelligence. There are different opulences that people can manifest according to their karma, strength, wisdom. Everyone gets according to their actions that they themselves have performed in certain situation. So some of the situations can be relatively pleasant, although they are still temporary. We can observe that on this planet. I mean, there are billions of conscious entities, and some are in positions that they find comfortable, that they find interesting, that they find productive. And actually, for someone on a very high level of consciousness, it doesn't matter where they are on the level of pure consciousness in the world that everyone else is involved in. And they can be situated in their self. They can be in but not of this level of reality. But
Sensei Cremo, let me ask you something else.
yeah,
Sensei Cremo, that's your new name. I'm going to make some T-shirts for you, Sensei Cremo, Sensei Cremo. Why have we lost the ability to laugh. And I know you understand the question, right? Everything is all fear and anger today, and not enough laughter in this world. Why is that?
You know, yeah, I've been thinking about a related question because I've just been traveling a bit, and I know I remember some years ago, like when you'd be traveling, it was a very common thing, to speak to a person you don't know. Hey, where are you going? Where's home? You're on a flight from San Diego to London or something. You talk to people. Now it's like everybody is just in their own space.
In a bubble.
I
Yeah.
find, I find. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Oh, I talk about it all the time. It bothers me so much. You know me well enough to know, and I think most people have come to grips with this. I'm a very gregarious person. I love talking to people. I love going into a room. I love an audience in front of me. We are all family, and I don't wear a mask. Sometimes I say things that offend people, but I'm not lying, right? I'm not, you know what I mean? And I enjoy that. When I go out in public, I fly every single week, Michael, just like you. I'm on a plane every week, right?
Yeah.
And I see that so much now, where everybody is just closed off. They kind of want somebody to talk to. If you go up and say hello to somebody, it's amazing. It's like, okay, I didn't ask for all that, right? They just start yapping because nobody approaches anybody anymore. You know who I feel bad for? I feel bad for so many people, but I have empathy for flight attendants. I have empathy for flight attendants. Flight attendants, nobody talks to them. Nobody says thank you. You think about this job that they are doing, right? Up there, standing at 30,000 feet for hours at a time, just to make sure that you are happy. And people just are pissed off when they get on the plane. They're pissed off when they get off the plane. And I go up to every single one of them and thank them. Every pilot, every flight attendant, and just thank them and talk to them. And it's amazing how they just open up. I watch them for hours, Michael. Nobody talks to them. Nobody. And I'm not the only person on a 10-hour flight. Why is this the world that we live in? Nobody wants to laugh. Nobody wants to talk. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like if they do laugh, it's at somebody.
You know what they laugh at? They laugh
Not
at their
with
phones.
somebody.
Yeah, they laugh at their phones. And that's another. Okay, so let's talk about. You brought this up earlier. You brought up AI earlier. You just got back from Barcelona. All right, that's a long flight. Those are airports and everything else. Have you noticed? And I do this all the time. I will not look at my phone walking through the airport. You know what I do? I look at everybody else looking at their phones while they walk. It's like our DNA is altered, man. Our DNA has fundamentally been altered, and we now have the ability to not look where we are going. Right? We've got a six. What happened to humanity? Look at everybody in the airport. 1,000 people are walking towards you. Not one of them looking up. Every one of them walking and looking at their phone. That's crazy to me. And that's their bubble. That's their friendship. That's their social being, their social awareness. Everything is through a phone and not through the humanity that's standing around them. And I don't want to sound like the Dalai Lama, but man, shit's got to change.
I think I recall hearing him say that.
Yeah. You know who laughs really well? The Dalai Lama. That man's got the best laugh on this planet. And we could all learn from that. And I'm not a spiritual person like that, but man, I really like that guy. I really do. He says he's the last one. Do you buy into that? Have you met him?
No, I haven't. There's not going to be. He's not identified a
The
follower.
reincarnation. Yeah. He says that's it.
He's the last one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It kind of bums me out, actually. It was a pretty good rabbit hole to go down, the whole lineage of the Dalai Lamas. But yeah, apparently he says there isn't a reincarnation coming. I could double check that. If you don't know that, it makes me think about my own intelligence. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that they had not identified, like you said, the reincarnation.
Let's see. You know what? Hey, Bill, Jessica, John, will you guys look that up? Dalai Lama reincarnation. Okay. The current Dalai Lama, the 14th, was born following his death. A search party guided by fans identifies his successor. Current. Oh, okay. See, I guess I'm wrong. He says, "Are you right?" Okay, yeah. This is not what I knew. The current views are: he has indicated that he may choose where and when to reincarnate, possibly outside of Tibet. He has also stated that a woman could be the next Dalai Lama. Wow. But he has also expressed the view that the line of Dalai Lamas are ending with him, though he has also indicated a desire to continue the lineage. Huh. Okay, so no firm answer there. It looks like he's on the fence. I didn't know it was his choice. See, you know more about this spiritual stuff than I do. I don't fully understand it.
Not about everything. I've got my little areas that I know something about, but I don't have a knowledge of every single thing.
Like I said, it's you and I sitting on the top of the mountain
Yeah,
right now. I'm just
like
asking a question.
above the clouds.
Yeah, above the clouds. Sensei. Let me ask you, I kind of wanted to save the best for last. Two subjects. One, I want to go with what you feel are still your favorite discoveries that have happened, considered anomalous, but there's that part. Yeah, or anonymous. There's that part, but what do you make of the basic dogma about our human origins and the fact that we don't really have any evidence, and that anthropology, even chemistry for that matter, is going to say it just happened, and that is their answer, and they're satisfied with that? I have a hard time with that, but it's only because there's such a general lack of evidence about us, right?
Well, I think science is a game that's played according to certain rules. And one of the rules they have is you can't invoke any other source of knowledge than sense perception and what we can logically infer from sense perception. In other words, there's no higher wisdom. There's no, designer or anything like that. So that's one of the rules. And the other rule is you can't bring in any non-material substance. Ordinary matter is it. Of course, they don't very strictly follow that because in cosmology, they've introduced dark matter and dark energy, but they consider them material. So no non-material substance and no higher intelligence. And if you stick to those rules, it's not surprising that they haven't made very much progress in
Well,
terms of
yeah,
what
but
I can.
they only, why dark matter and dark energy even exist in a conversation? It's because they need it to make the math work.
Right.
That's it. Can't measure it, can't see it, don't know anything about it, don't know where it comes from, don't know anything. They call it dark because it doesn't emit light and we can't see it, but it is there. And it's like, wait a minute, that's convenience. Now, I'm not saying that dark energy isn't real, but I think dark energy is consciousness. That's what I think. That's what that is. I think
Yeah.
that's my take. When ET comes, Michael, ET lands, and they land in Santa Monica, and you get to go see the craft, and you're going to go up to them, and you're going to go. They're going to ask for you, right? Where's Michael Cremo? And so you're going to step out, and you're going to go, okay, so what's the deal? And they're going to, you know what that answer is going to be? Consciousness. It's not going to be a cure for cancer or pollution or nuclear weapons or anything. No, it's not. They're going to tell us it's all about consciousness. And we need to
Well,
get to that level of evolution. That's our next step. That's
I
my take. And I don't think I'm wrong.
and then we'll realize that we're all extraterrestrials.
I know, right?
As beings of pure consciousness, we're not from the world of matter. We're all from somewhere else besides this terrestrial planet.
When and I want to get to your favorite evidence. We'll do that next. But this is why I love what you just said. We launched a mission to the asteroid Bennu, right? We did this like 4 years ago. Our our probes landed on Bennu, scooped up some asteroid dirt, and flew back to Earth and crashed in the Utah desert 2 years ago, right? The capsule came down. And we go out, we retrieve the capsule, we open it up, and we analyze the scoop. And you know what we found? We found the 20 amino acids that make up RNA on an asteroid flying around in the vacuum of space. And you know what else we found? RNA only is the instruction set for DNA, right? They go together. RNA tells DNA what's up. Well, you know what else they found? The 5 proteins that make up DNA on the same asteroid, in the same scoop, the little scoop that they found. They found all of that. So what does that tell you? It tells you that what you are saying is correct, sir. Consciousness is universal. Life is universal. What goes on here goes on there. And it's that simple. And I don't think there's any way to argue out of those facts.
Well, it's kind of interesting that the scientists who were doing that work were based out of the University of Arizona in Tucson, and they were actually working with the organizers of the Science of Consciousness conference. that is held in alternate years in Tucson and then another city and somewhere else in the world, like it was Barcelona this year. Next year it'll be back in Tucson. But the head of that project is working with the Conscious Science of Consciousness group also. So it's kind of interesting.
Why, if particles can only combine so many different ways, there's only so many particles, first off, right? It's finite. And they only combine so many different ways. That is also finite. So the way they combine here is the same way they combine in Zeta Reticuli or on the other side of the observable universe. It's all the same. And so if some random asteroid, in this case Bennu, is carrying what it takes to kickstart life anywhere in the universe, that would indicate to me that it's all the same everywhere. And if we have a mind that contemplates quantum thought and then the macro, which is observing the universe, it has to be that way everywhere. But they want to fight this. I don't get it. It's so basic. It's so fundamental. And it's also non-trivial in the same breath.
Well, I think that's the failure of the many universe explanation of why everything's so finely tuned in our one universe that it's just chance that we have a universe where all the natural forces are set at values that allow life and consciousness to exist in our universe. To really prove that, they would have to show that in all these other universes, there isn't any life. But I would say if you went to another universe, if it were possible to go to it, you look at any of the millions and trillions of universes that are existing at any point in time, they would all have life in them. Like you were saying, same everywhere.
Yeah, particles are particles. Unless gravity's a little different, then particles may not be particles anymore. They might not even get a chance to form. Now, in the time that we have left, let's lay it out. Let's put some evidence on the table in court. What's some of your favorite discoveries?
Well, in terms of what's already been published in Forbidden Archeology, I kind of like the California gold mine discoveries because they do two things. They demonstrate that evidence exists for extreme human antiquity, and they also show how that evidence was rejected simply because it violated the dominant theories of how the human species, how and when the human species came into existence.
For those that don't know, what were the California gold mine discoveries?
Well, during the 1850s, gold was discovered in the mountains of Central California in the Sierra Nevada mountains, in places like Tuolumne County, and at places like Table Mountain, miners were digging tunnels into the sides of this mountain, which is kind of like a plateau with a flat top. But they were digging tunnels into the side of it. And deep inside the tunnels and layers of rock that modern geologists tell us are about 50 million years old, the miners were finding human bones and human artifacts such as obsidian spear points and stone mortars and pestles. So it was a very interesting set of discoveries that came to the attention of the state geologist of California, Dr. J.D. Whitney. And he wrote a massive study about these cases and things that he investigated himself and discovered himself. And it was published by Harvard University in the year 1880. You had mentioned that year in connection with something else a little while ago. But he announced these discoveries to the scientific world. But there was a scientist at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, a Dr. William Holmes, who was a physical anthropologist. And he said about Dr. Whitney's work, if Dr. Whitney would have understood the theory of human evolution as we understand it today, by which he meant 1890, he wouldn't have reached those conclusions that he did, despite the imposing array of testimony that he was confronted with. In other words, if the evidence didn't support the dominant theory of human evolution, it had to be forgotten. It shouldn't have even been published, according to Holmes, who kind of represented the orthodox scientific community. So we don't hear very much about those discoveries today. I mean, most scientists today would say human beings like us first appeared less than 300,000 years ago. So to have this evidence at 50 million years, which is just totally beyond the imagination of most scientists today. But for me, it's expected, because I would, according to how I see things, this universe has a purpose. That purpose is realized in the human bodily vehicle. So the human bodily vehicle should always have been available.
The extinction 65 million years ago, which we think was cosmic in origin, right? An asteroid or a comet plowed into the Gulf of Mexico. I just said it. I didn't say the Gulf of America. I said the Gulf of Mexico. But anyway, these artifacts showing up at 50 million years ago. After that extinction event, we had a vast explosion of species that just appeared right after that mass extinction event, right? Why wouldn't that restarted? Why wouldn't humans be part of that? It just makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think it's like if we make a space station, you can kind of like self-assemble a space station. But the reason that you make it is because you're not thinking that, well, maybe the gases inside the space station will combine together and form some first living thing that will evolve into astronauts.
Right.
You make a space station because you've got astronauts that are ready to go up there and work in the thing. So the same way I think our universe is like that. It's got a purpose. It's made, that purpose is to allow conscious selves to qualify themselves to go to that higher level of reality. And I think that's how one should judge a civilization or a nation, not by how big its military is, how big its economy is. The real measure of success of a civilization is how many conscious selves in that civilization, in the population of that civilization or nation, are making it out of the temporary cycle of birth and death and are coming to that timeless level. So, by that measure, I don't think our modern civilizations are really so successful. Actually, they tend to be organized in such a way that keeps people entangled in all the worst aspects of this place.
What can I ask you about coal?
Yeah.
What coal has to be really, really friggin' old. And if you find artifacts embedded in coal, I think that would be very difficult to do in a modern sense. Right, in the last 10,000 years, in the last 50,000 years, in the last week, you can't really fake your way through that. What impresses you about artifacts that are found in coal mines?
Well, I think there's a whole lot of such evidence that we haven't even really seen yet. I think the examples that we have are just the tip of the iceberg, because many of these discoveries are made by miners, and they don't make their way into the scientific system. A coal miner may discover an object, a human object in a coal mine. He'll put it on his shelf, and maybe eventually he gets old and dies, and nobody knows what the thing is, and they throw it away. So I think in places, of course, these days, mining has become a very mechanized activity. They just have huge machines that go down and completely chew up the coal or whatever else is being mined and destroy anything that may be in it. But in the days when they were doing mining more by hand activities, I think a lot of interesting things may have been discovered that we've just never seen or have lost track of. But the cases in Forbidden Archeology and Extreme Human Antiquity that I find interesting, well, one that I reported in Extreme Human Antiquity has to do with a man who, when he was young, was living in West Virginia. In 1944, he was putting a big piece of coal into a coal burning furnace in his family's house. And he broke the big piece of coal in half. And inside he found a metal bell. And on the handle of this bell at the top of it was a winged figure. And I kind of immediately recognized it as the kind of bell that's used in temples in India for worship. The winged figure is Garuda, which is a bird carrier of the Vedic god Vishnu. So I recognize that bell. Now the coal that was being used in this house came from a particular mine, and from the geological records,
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got cases like that. There have been cases. There was another case from St. Louis, which I reported in Forbidden Archeology, where a human skeleton was found 90 feet below the surface in coal deposits. And one counter explanation for the presence of, say, human bones or artifacts in very ancient layers of coal is that there was some digging activity going on, and somehow or other, maybe somebody died in a mine or something. But in this case, above the skeleton was, according to the discoverer, there was a thick layer of slate rock that covered the human skeleton and extended for dozens of yards in all directions. So somebody had tried to dig something from the surface, they would have had to break through that layer of slate rock, and it was unbroken, according to the discoverers. So, that was an interesting case. It was published in a scientific journal called The Geologist. And maybe
they have to make up something. They can't, right? I mean, there's just no way that they would say, okay, this is real. They can't.
I've kind of encountered that. That what they generally do when they try to criticize some of these discoveries, like I was giving a lecture on forbidden archaeology in Denmark and Copenhagen one year, and in the audience was a Danish archaeologist, and I went through the California gold mine discoveries and dozens of other cases for extreme human antiquity. And his response was, well, Mr. Cremo, don't you realize that it's possible the original discoverer could have made a mistake in these cases, that it's possible there was some earth movement, that it's possible that there was some fissure that extended from the surface down to that level, and some artifact or bone slipped in through that fissure, or that the original discoverer made a mistake, or there was a hoax. They list all these possibilities. And my answer to him was, anything is possible. It's possible that you are a holographic projection from Mars. That's possible.
That's a good answer. That's quick.
If you're going to proceed in a scientific way, you can't just give a laundry list of possibilities. You have to show that in this exact place, one of those possibilities was a reality. You have to be able to demonstrate it. Otherwise, you can just say, well, it's possible that something happened. And, that's, and of course, in many cases, the original discoverers anticipate things like that, and they rule it out. But
they don't. In most cases, Michael, they don't even understand what they've discovered. they don't understand the impact or the significance of it. And so I could see they may dismiss it because of innocence, and not understand. I wanted to ask you, we just have a few minutes left. What about the Texas hammer? What do you think about that?
Well, I saw that in an exhibition that was arranged by a man named Klaus Dona
Yeah,
in
Klaus.
Vienna. Klaus Dona.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he, many years ago, he arranged an exhibit in Vienna in which he got different anomalous artifacts and bones from private collections all over the world and brought them to Venice and had an exhibition. And one of the objects that he had gotten was the metal hammer with the wooden shaft that had been found in Texas in layers of rock, surrounded by layers of rock, embedded in layers of rock that date back to the Cretaceous period, the age of the dinosaurs, maybe 100 million years ago. So I actually saw the object and took some photographs of it there. It's an interesting object. There's actually a whole series of discoveries that were made in the state of Texas, including footprints of humans alongside the footprints of dinosaurs, and this discovery of this hammer, which was studied very carefully. It was not the type of iron. It was a kind of a special alloy of iron that didn't match the type of iron that was being used in this area over the past century or so. So, because one explanation, counter explanation is, well, somebody just left a hammer on some rock surface and some water with minerals was dripping on it and kind of covered it partially over in rock so that it looks like it's a hammer that's embedded in very ancient rock. But so
it's only 100 years old, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, when I don't have these answers, but when you look at evidence like the Texas hammer and you look at the photographs and then you read how it was recovered and brought up through the soil in that digging that they were doing at that time, which was construction, that is worth investigating. And they kind of did, but it has been like any other evidence like this. It is completely dismissed and explained away because it makes science and historians so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, it's a case that I write about in Extreme Human Antiquity. So if readers would like to get more information about that case, they could find it in that book.
Thank you so much. And I don't know when I'm going to see you again, Michael, but I always look forward to any chance that we have to hang out. Just keep doing what you're doing. And there you go. I've got your website up, mcremo.com. Is that the easiest place for everybody to follow what you're doing?
Yeah, it's good. What they would find there, there's a special offer that we've got, that the first 100 people who buy from my website for this book. It's extremehumanantiquity.com. That's the website for the book. The first 100 people that purchase the book from that website, extremehumanantiquity.com, will be able to see a webinar, a special webinar that I give about the book that'll be available only to them. So that's an offer that we're making there.
Oh yeah. Okay, we've got the link up. We've got the link up right there. Thank you, Bill, for being so quick with that. Extremehumanantiquity.com. We've got the link up. Is there a promo code or anything for everybody to use, or just go to that website?
Just go to that website.
Michael, thank you so much, my friend. And you know what? I'm just going to say it. Keep rolling that rock uphill. Okay. You're the very best. All right. And thank you so much. Thank you again for all of your contributions to this world. We owe you so much. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
The absolute very best. Michael Cremo right there. We do have his website. That was a perfect conversation tonight, and I learned so much, and I know all of you did too as well. Bill's got the link up right there. You don't need a promo code. Just head over. And also mcremo.com. All of Michael's books and everything that he is doing is right there. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out tonight. Thank you, Michael Cremo. And tomorrow night, let me see what's going on tomorrow. Just let me pop this up and I will tell you. Sir Blake Sinclair is with us tomorrow. We're going to talk about his family, the Sinclairs, and their connection to UFOs. All of that and much more tomorrow night on Fade to Black. But for now, all I've got is Go Backley Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Backley Tappy.